Awesome. We are live on Facebook. Welcome, everyone. Welcome. This is my lunch and learn, as I coined the phrase, which I stole from the veterinary industry because they like to do their lunch and learns. But welcome to James White from the Sales Academy. How you doing?
I'm good, Bill. How are you, mate?
Yeah, good. You having a good summer?
Summer's always good. I'm alive. When you get to my age and you're alive, that's half the battle. So no, it's all good. But the weather's to be a bit average, but as we all know, we're British. We deal with that, right? So
yeah, every year's a bonus, is it?
Yeah, my age, it definitely is, mate. I tell you that, it's all good. No, I do have, I'm grateful for small mercies, and sometimes health and well-being is part of that. So it's all good. If you're in good health, that's a good start.
Yeah, excellent. So thank you for coming on and chatting to us. We're going to be talking all about sales, which is an interesting topic, and obviously, 45 minutes to an hour will not cover a small percentage of it, but we're going to talk about where people stumble and fall down on sales. But before we do that, perhaps you can just introduce yourself and tell us how you got into the sales industry.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. No worries at all. Well, my name is James White, but it's a really interesting thing. A lot of people think my actual name is James White Sales, because if you search for me anywhere across the internet, on YouTube, on any social channels, you'll search James White. You get a theologian and a few other people, but if you search James White Sales, then you find me. So sales has been a passion of mine all my life, really. My dad was a sales director, and he got into selling. Obviously, he was in sales for a security company, and I used to go on to market fairs and stalls, the olden days when you could only sell through face-to-face transaction for the internet. And I worked with him, and I say worked with him, I sort of attended with him. And then I got into in a market stall. I sold on a market stall and was doing a mixture of sales jobs over my career. And I really loved those jobs, and loved sales and the passion for sales and how people buy and what makes people buy. And I worked in sales and marketing roles in some large IT companies in sort of after I left university, from 97 through to sort of 2005, sorry. And then I set my own business up in 2005. So I've been a unemployable business person. I should say unemployable, because when you set your own business up, you become unemployable to other people. And I've been running my own business for 20 odd years, and built up a software company, and then set up my own sales training company. So my big passion and my big mission is helping people do two things: A, realize that sales is not as difficult as they think it is, and B, helping people sell the right way. Because I think when you sell the right way, everyone feels good as a result of it. So yeah, I have a YouTube channel. If you search for me, James White Sales, I have a podcast, any social channel. I'm just on a big mission to help people learn to sell and feel comfortable about selling.
Awesome. And I invited you on, your mentor of mine and Emma's, to another program, and the passion that you have around helping small businesses sell is, it comes across every time we speak. So that's why I wanted to get you on amongst this audience. But I
love it. And if someone can take one nugget from today that they can use, that they can apply and get a result, it makes my heart sing. So that's what I do, and I mean that in the sense of the reason I do what I do is when people say, I applied your idea here, or did this and it worked. Oh my goodness, thank you. That's manna from heaven for me.
And we may have a tough crowd today, pet groomers, or the dog industry in general. Quite often you hear people say, I got into pet grooming because I don't like people. And that's a tough one. That is a tough one, isn't it? But maybe we can start.
Any questions are welcome. Look, at the end of the day, I'll try. I'm not here to try and convince people they don't think otherwise. I'm just here to give them a different perspective, right? So if we can give them a different perspective, and humans are weird, right? Animals are strange, but humans are weird. So hence why, if you want to connect with me on LinkedIn, feel free. I talk about, getting inside the buyer's mind, getting inside people's minds. If you can be in sales, it's all about getting inside someone's mind.
Yeah, and we'll perhaps talk a little bit about psychology later, because I think that's quite interesting. But is there how would you break down the word sales? What does sales actually mean as a small business?
It's blood running through your business. I always describe this to people. If you're a small business owner, you can have, the brain and the heart and whatever else, but sales is the blood that runs through it. As human beings and animals, dogs, pets, animals, whatever it is, if there's no blood running through the veins every day, they die. So sales is, to me, blood running through your business vein every day. And I have a very simple phrase that I say to people, and that's: when the tills ring, you're happy. You can deal with any problem in the world when the business is coming in. Where my big vision and mission is, is, and I've been in this position myself, which is why I know the impact it has, is when you don't bring business in. So people say to me, what do I sell? And I say to people, I sell people sleeping better at night. I sell people having better times with their loved ones. So there's people watching this now that are going to go, and they'll know who they are. And everyone's been in this position where they look at the bank balance, they log on to Starling or Tide or Monzo, they look at the bank balance and go, oh, sugar. I've not got enough money to cover my bills and to pay for the things I need to pay for, and all these other issues that go through people's minds, okay? And that happens, that bank balance is a direct result of what you have sold, fundamentally, and how you have sold and what you've done to drive sales. And whether you like sales or hate it, I don't care, that bank balance figure that you're seeing is a direct result. So my big passion is making that bank balance figure look a bit fatter. Because when it looks a bit fatter and it looks a bit chunkier, and you know this because you've done incredibly well, and you feel good, right? We feel better as human beings, and we have better time with our loved ones. We spend better time with our kids. We spend better time with the people that matter, because we're not worried about how I'm going to pay a bill. We're more thinking about how can we be present with that individual. So my big driver is for small business owners is make sales a priority. You may not think you're a salesperson, whatever, but make it a priority to enable you to do the other things that we all love as business owners. And that's why it's so critical. Long-winded answer, but I hope it gives you what I mean.
No, I love that. Sales is the lifeblood of your business, and without sales, your business is not performing, is it?
It's not, and it depends where. It doesn't matter where. As I said, I'm at a company I'm chairman of today, and I've been talking to the CEO. We're doing stuff around the business, and at the moment we're looking at our projection numbers, okay, of sales numbers. Now, this is a business that's a bigger business, in terms of size of company. They're a six-figure business, but it's still the same fundamental question. We're looking at what we operate with and how we do and how we grow and build. So it doesn't change as you scale and build, but if you don't make the tills ring, I read sadly today that Wilko went out of business. Sad to hear, really sad to hear that. Why has it happened? There'll be a mixture of reasons, but fundamentally, they didn't bring enough cash into the business. They didn't bring enough business in. There would have been some other factors and reasons, but most of the time, the best businesses are bringing business in on a consistent basis, and that comes from selling and knowing how to sell or feeling comfortable selling.
Yeah, and that leads us into why when obviously you mentor on programs, and when people start to sort of take on your information and your knowledge, there's a bit of fear. There's a lot of fear around us. What causes this kind of fear within us when it comes to sales?
Great question. And the honest answer is a few different things cause that. The first thing is people's perception of selling. And that perception comes because I think, and I estimate this on average, between 80 and 90% of companies and people sell badly. Okay, if I ask people in the room what do people feel about salespeople and what they don't dislike, they dislike people being pushy and people asking for money, and they feel people are dishonest and distrustworthy, and excuse my French, apologies for getting kids around the bullshitters and that sort of stuff. And people are trying to do what they want to do, so they see this perception of sales and they think, oh, I don't want to be like that, which I get totally, and we're going to, hence why it's a passion to try and change people to think differently. But the other reason people don't like it is because it puts them out of their comfort zone a little bit, right? Because they're people that, like you said, they're passionate about dogs or pets or whatever else. That's their passion. Their passion isn't necessarily in picking up the phone, talking to someone, emailing someone, contacting someone, whatever the sales activity is. But, and as I use the big but, if we don't do one, we can't do the other, right? And ultimately, we have to be able to know. Hence, I say, the most critical factor in any business is sales is king, I would say, in a business. If sales don't flow in and don't come in on a regular basis, you cannot then grow, you cannot scale, you cannot, do the things you want to do, whether that's to just build a nice lifestyle business so that you enjoy good income, or whether it's that you want to grow and become the world's biggest pet groom, I don't know. But the point being is you need that revenue to be able to pay and do things. And if you don't bring revenue, it doesn't happen. So people get fearful of it. They think sales is lots of things that it isn't. They get very tied up in, I call it the 3 R's, okay? Fear of reputation, fear of rejection, and the fear of reaction. So fear of reaction is if I phone up someone and say something to someone, what reaction am I going to get? Okay, I'm going to get off the phone to me. You're a terrible person, whatever. They worry about that reaction. They worry about being rejected because people don't like being told no. We get into this habit where we're always told yes and everything's yes. And no, it's not a bad word. No is a good word. I quite like no's, right? If I get no's, then I'm okay with it, but people worry about that. And the final one is that fear of reputation. They feel that, oh, well, I'm going to be seen as a sleazy, horrible salesperson, which is one of the reasons why people don't do it. So overcoming those 3 R's is really key. And I go through with people how to do that. And when you do think about it in a slightly different way, people go, no, that's not too bad.
That rejection, that must be one. Is that probably one of the biggest sort of worries people have, like being said no, or don't like your product, or don't want to speak to you? As human beings, you know, we get quite upset with rejection, don't we?
We do exactly that, and people take it personally, right? And they take it very personally. And here's a little tip I say to people: they are not rejecting you personally. Very rarely are they saying, "I don't like Bill Betts." Okay, what they're just saying is, "I just don't think your service at the moment. I don't believe in your service right now. I don't think it's right for me right for whatever reason." And there's a number of reasons, and we can talk about that. It's not right for me right now. They're not saying Bill Betts is a terrible person or runs a terrible business. They're just saying, for me right now, it's not right, or I don't feel this is okay at the right point in time. And we as human beings, we get really caught up in this, and we get really caught up, and people, and it happens a lot. People make a call, and, oh, someone's rejected me, and they over catastrophize it. They say, oh, that person's rejected me, they must hate me. Whereas that person probably hasn't even given any thought. An hour later, they've forgotten this even happened, right? So it's not like in their head they're thinking, oh, I'm going to continue to reject Bill Betts. They haven't thought about it differently, but we take it as if, oh, it means we're bad and we're not good. Now, ultimately, okay, we have to get to the realities of business. If you continually get rejected and you continually aren't able to get people to buy what you do, then there's a bigger issue that we have to address as a business. That's why you help people, right, to work out their market space and where their niche and what they're doing and what they're focusing on and what they offer. But fundamentally, you know, as a business people, we're worried about someone rejecting us. And my message to them is, well, they don't need to reject you personally, for one, so don't take it personally. Don't stop being offended by someone trying to do something. It's just not right then for them. But the second part of it is also, you know, if you were a fit for everyone, it'd be tough, right? So if you were a fit for everyone, if literally everyone wanted to work with you, you'd be stressed to hell. So actually, rejection is okay. I work on the basis of 1 in 3. If I can bring 1 in 3 people I talk about, or 1 in 2 sometimes, then I'm happy. So that must mean 50% of the time I'm losing or I'm getting rejected. Know that those are the averages. Yeah, you're not going to win with everyone. Not everyone that gets on the train from Bristol gets to London. Some people get off at Bath, some people get off at Swindon, some people get off at Reading. That's the nature of the world. So accept it and don't worry about it and don't overthink it, because they're not thinking about you. They're just thinking about what else is going on in their life. Don't extravise it.
So you take the personality out, you know, out of it. It's the business they're rejecting, not yourself.
And if they're saying, and if they come back to you and saying, I don't think the price is worth it, and we'll come on to price maybe as a subject maybe later. If they're saying, I don't think the price is worth it, or I don't think the service is good enough, or I don't like the way you talk to me, whatever. Of course, as business owners, we have to hold the mirror up. We have to be self-reflective about things we do and what we don't do. So it may well be that we've got to adjust parts of our behavior or our approach or whatever else. And, you know, part of the sales training that I do with people is to say, you know, sales is 2 things: what you do and how you do it. So there is things we need to learn and adjust in that respect. And of course, that's why I'm on a passion to teach it. It's why I have 400 free videos. It's why I give as much content out so people can learn how to change this stuff. But most of the time, it's not aimed at that person. So stop taking it personally. It's not aimed at you. It's not saying that everyone's circumstances are different, you know. And I give an example of that, which is pet related. And I'll give a very relevant example. So my sister has a dog, lovely dog. I love Albie to bits, beautiful Cocker Spaniel. Okay. She goes and gets it looked after in the grooming parlour. Okay. Now, I know that groomer wants her to be in a position where she can take Albie in every 4 weeks or however long it takes, I don't know how often it is. Now, my sister's a bit more canny with money, and she's going through, everyone's going for a bit of a cost of living crisis and whatever else, and she manages her budgets carefully, whatever else. And so when, and I talked about this to her last week, but it was my niece's birthday. The lady, had asked her about, when's Albie coming in for his next hole? We're not sure yet. Now, that's not to say she doesn't want, she loves the dog being looked after, but at the moment she's counting her pennies and she's having to work a few things out and prioritise it and whatever else. So now if that dog groomer takes that as offence, then they're doing the wrong thing. They're over catastrophising a situation that isn't actually there. So sometimes as human beings, we overthink stuff. And actually the reality is it's probably just not right now for that person or for some other reason. Now, our job is to find out what that is and to try and see if we can persuade and convince, but let's not over dramatise it.
That's a great example, actually, because the dog groomer might be thinking, "Oh, why is this dog not booked back in?" So your sister, wasn't it, is thinking one thing, the dog groomer is thinking another, but there's no communication in the middle, is there?
Correct, and ultimately, very few of your customers are going to say, "Right now, I'm having to choose between getting my dog groomed and paying my bills." Okay, which is where some people might be. Okay, they may well be in that situation. So the reality is, as I always say to people, your buyers, your prospects, the people, your customers are like onions, they have layers to them. They're not going to tell everything straight away. But that person, that dog groomer could, and I don't know, they hope they may be on this session today, they could be thinking, "Oh, it's the world's worst, the customers are leaving me." It's not. It's just because there's a circumstance going on in that customer's world that is not right. I mean, at the moment, it means they can't afford it that month or they don't want to pay it that month. Doesn't mean to say that you're rubbish and I'm terrible and I'm getting rejected. There's a circumstance, right? So our job as salespeople and business people is to find that out where we can. Now, if you ask a person, like if someone had asked my sister, "Is that because you can't afford it?" the barriers would go up, right? Oh, straight away it would be the barriers. So if you start saying that to people, be prepared for people to then go, "Oh, goodness me, speedo." But if you ask questions in a different type of way, you try and dig and have a conversation with someone, then you might get some insights that can then help you make a solution differently. And that's what we try and that's what I try and help people with, is to try and approach things in a slightly different way to open up a different part of the of a conversation that might then get you the answer that you need to know where you want to be.
It might be that having spoken to that customer and realised that money could be an issue, that you look to put in a payment plan or something like that to help them out.
Or what you do is you put together a subscription plan, for example, that says that they can then budget over a period of 12 months, for example. So you open up a new service that says, and by the way, I had this conversation with a photographer who was a brilliant photographer, and she was saying, "Oh, I'm struggling to get people." And I actually, one of the, again, small businesses I helped, slightly different industry, but she was saying, "Oh, I'm struggling to get people to come and do photos with me, and I'm booked up different times or whatever." I said, "Well, why don't you create a subscription model?" She's like, "How will I do that?" I said, "Well, at the moment, how much you charge for a photography session? £400. I said, "Okay, and how often does that happen?" "Well, normally it's sort of like once, 3-4 times a year." "Okay," I said, "Why don't you take that cost of £1,200 over the year and make it £100 a month for people, or £200 a month for people, depending on how many you offer?" So what they then do is they budget for it, and they then know it's in their plan, and they plan for it. So she's put that in place, and now she's got like 9 other customers that have come to her and said, "Oh, that works for us." You have to sometimes be a bit innovative about thinking like a payment plan, or I don't know if they're already doing a subscription plan for dog grooming, but great ideas, simple ways to do things, right?
Yeah, getting paid every month and spread the cost over, like we do with most important things in our lives.
Like we do with bills. It's how look at the utility companies, they don't do badly, right? And that's how they do it with us. So why is it any different for other business owners? But sometimes it's about us thinking differently and thinking like our customer and seeing what because I know my sister wants her dog to look amazing, and every time the dog comes back from the groomer, they put a lovely little bow tie on him and he looks cute and amazing, and she puts a photo up and she's really proud of it, right? So she wants it to happen, but she has also got other circumstances. So we just need to take that into account.
That's interesting what you say about utility. I mean, I got a text message from my water company the other day saying, "Oh, we're just putting your direct debit up." There was no customer service around that. Just we're putting your money up. But
this is it. The issue slightly is those organisations are monopolies, right? So they're in a monopoly environment where you generally can't go and get water from anywhere else. But whereas dog groomers can go elsewhere, and that's the challenge. But communication again, and people are afraid to put prices up, as you know. I'm sure you've had Robin doing this sort of stuff before. People are really scared of pricing and what pricing means. And I always say to people, it's never price that's the issue; it's that they don't value it enough. So the question that you guys have got to ask yourself is, how much value do the people that we work with get from their dog being groomed and being looked after and being treated specially? Now, I think dogs are the equivalent of human beings in most people's world. They are the equivalent of kids, right? They are kids in the family in most families, and most people don't put a limit on what they spend on their kids, right? So they're pretty important factors. So if that price was to go up, or if you were to offer an additional service on top of that, I think there's loads of opportunities for people. But again, it's something for them to think about and look at. But communication is everything, but getting to understand your buyer and what's going on in their world is critical. If you understand people, then you can then, Stephen Covey, the great business guru, said, seek first to understand and then be understood. So when you understand someone, then you can then work out how you can target what you do into their world.
And I think one of the big issues within the industry at the moment, and it may have been throughout, is technology. And technology and the industry is being pushed. There's a lot of players in there pushing people down the online booking scene. Get the customers to book in with you. It's really easy. Text them, message them. We're losing that skill of communication, aren't we? We're actually talking to people. How does what's the importance of actually getting on the phone and speaking to people when it comes to sales?
Well, look, you probably know, I always say to people, right, especially if your business is struggling, you don't email the fire brigade if your house is on fire, okay? So the reality is you want to pick up the phone and talk to people. Now, it depends on how you're doing that. So if you're picking up the phone with an intention to sell, here's one of the big mistakes that small businesses make. They think about what's right for them, not what's right for the buyer. Okay, so the 101 I say to people about sales and selling is if you keep going in with your own what's right for you, then people will probably don't want to engage with you. But if you literally go in with the intention of, let's say I picked up the phone when I was a dog groomer, and I picked up the phone to 10 of my clients and said to them, hey, so-and-so here from Dog Grooming X, just want to get your feedback on how our service has gone. What could we do differently? Tell us a bit more about what you love about the service we offer. What can we improve on? What are the things that frustrate you around when your dog comes back? Are there other things that we could do that could help you and your dog, right? Now, if you had 10 conversations like that, and by the way, guys, if you've got that time to make those conversations and you know that person, the chances are you're probably going to get some insights from those customers that say, oh, we love this, but it'd be great if you could, I don't know, and I'm creating something here, Bill, it might not be, or any chance you could pick the dog up for us and drop it off, or any chance you could, I don't know, clean its teeth. I don't know, there's loads of stuff. I'm not in your world, right? But there could be a load of things, top additional services that you could be adding to that. Or he comes back, he looks great, but his breath smells. Okay, so if we offered a teeth cleaning service for your dog, and it was an investment of a little bit, an extra X, how would that feel? What? And it would come back, it could help with that, and he can actually make his canine teeth better and better for the dog. I don't know. You might get someone going, well, yeah, well, why not? Let's add it on. So if you have those conversations with telling your customers, you get insights that you didn't have, we didn't know. And yes, you've got to be innovative as a business person, but having those conversations and then saying, and by the way, look, if you love the service that we provide, I just want to know, is there anyone else you know that has dogs locally to you? Oh, yeah, our next door neighbour's got a dog. Oh, okay. And can I ask, where do they go for getting grooming? Oh, I don't know if they go anywhere at the moment. Okay, well, would it be okay if I gave you a little voucher that said if they do decide to join our groomers, that if you gave that to them, what that'll do is that will give them a special, and by the way, I don't like discounts, that might give them a gold service for the price of silver initially. But what we'll also then do is, if that happens, we'll put a free bag of dog food in, or I don't know, a free bag of, gives Albie something the next time your dog something the next time he's with us. So people go, oh, that's really common. Okay, great. And something they go around their next door neighbour with. Oh, by the way, I don't know if it's right. Something you become your customers become your own ambassadors, right? Now that comes from having 10 conversations with customers that might take you an hour. But A, you'll get insights about your service and how you can be better. But B, you've then got the opportunity to upsell. Plus, you've also got the opportunity then to drive referrals. Now, that comes from having a conversation. Now, how can you do that on a booking system? Impossible.
Yeah, I mean, I love the way you can just see how quickly your brain just goes, and how yes, we can do this, we can do that, we can do this. It's brilliant. It's brilliant. When we sort of look at new business, a lot of groomers will just receive a message. They'll get a message on Messenger, or message or text message, and it'll be like, "Hi, I've got a cockapoo. How much?" How do you deal with that?
Well, as you know, one of my conversations is the moment you start talking about price with people, it becomes you've got a limited chance to create value. So one of the things that before that I encourage people to do, I'm sure you're doing, is helping them create content to be able to educate and value their marketplace, right? So because the honest answer is how much. What I would prefer to do, and some people will say to me, oh, I don't want to have a conversation with someone, I just want to know. If I come back and say it could range, so what I would probably do is if they don't want to have a conversation, I'd preferably say, dear so and dear Bill, thanks for the inquiry, love to have a conversation with you, find out a bit more about you and Charlie, the cockapoo, and from there I can then give you the best price. And if they then come back and say, just give me a price, I would go back and say, look, our prices can range from X to Y, okay? Because when you do a range, it does, because you are saying what you want the service to be. And most people are going to just, you might want the nails clipped, you might want the dog to have a full, if I go to the car wash, there are 4 different types of car wash, right? If I phone the car wash company up and say which service can offer, they might give me the cheapest one, they might give me the most expensive one. So, I think you can give a range, but generally, if people do things on email, I'm always a little bit nervous. If you're giving your price to someone before they've understood your value, then it can be a challenge, right? Because it's a challenge to get that element across. Now, let's just say, for example, you offer a high quality service. It's a very unique service. It's different, where you spend 2 hours on every dog and 4 hours, I don't know, goodness knows, whatever people spend on each dog, and you go underneath their fingernails and do a health check and all these things. If you go back to someone and just say, our price is 300 quid, they're going to go, oh my God, that's ridiculous. But the point is, if you go back and say, look, we range from this to this, and this is our top end service, which is £300. And owners love this service because it gives them peace of mind around this, this, and this. But I don't understand your situation. So why don't we, have a chat, have a conversation, and I can then tell you, A, if we're a good fit for you or not, because it may be that we're not, and if we are, which is the right service for us. One of the benefits about doing that is everyone always thinks that you're going to sell. And one of my best tricks that I know, tips I can give people is to actually, in a sales conversation, to say to someone, it may well be that we're not right for you. It may well be that we are not the right solution for you. It may well be that we're not a good fit. And hey, if that's the case, no worries. What I do, when you do that, what I call release the pressure, you release the valve where people think you're going to be sold to. And also because you don't want BMW customers, right? You know what BMW customer is, right? A butcher, moaner, and whiner, right? So you don't want those type of customers in your business because they're just hard work. They're just hard work. So sales should be an element of matching. So rather than someone saying, just give me a price, I always encourage the business I work to try and have that conversation. But I know it's not always possible. So if it's not possible to have a conversation, give a range, but try and indicate maybe what the services look like. But just be careful, because if you're offering a standard price and someone then looks at 50 versus 60 and goes, oh, well, I'm just going to go for the 50, they may not be comparing apples to apples, or there might be a level of care, it might be a level of attention that other groomer's not doing that you can show that you do.
Yeah, and since sort of working with you and meeting you and going forward with on our mentorship program, we don't give a price out anymore. Our pretty much our standard reply is, thanks for your inquiry. Please send over your phone number and we'll give you a call back. And that's like the first step to weed out the BMW customers, as it were.
But also it's a really important thing, right? Because, sorry to interrupt you, but it's a really important thing. Why would you, as a dog owner, put your prized dog and family member in the hands of someone you haven't had a conversation with, or someone that I wouldn't want to just do it. If you've got people like that, maybe they don't care that much about their dog. So do you really want to work with them? I don't know. Do you know what I mean? If they don't want to have a conversation.
Oh, that's it, and we see this a lot in the groups. Like the pet groomers get lumbered with the dogs that are banned from other places. They're matted up, they're solid. They can't get an appointment with their usual groomer. So again, having that conversation with them is that opportunity to wheedle out the red flags and select your ideal clients, isn't it?
It is, and ideal clients, we all know that sometimes we can't always be as picky as we want to be, but trying to avoid the customers that I call the hot curry customers as well, right? A hot curry, you've tasted it tastes all right, but it hurts like hell elsewhere. The other side, so as they go through the system, they hurt, right? So we just want to avoid those type of people. And one of the great tips I can give people to think about that is I did a podcast with a guy called Mike McAlovich on my YouTube channel, and he's a brilliant guy. He wrote a book called The Pumpkin Plan, Profit First, fantastic guy. And he talks about having businesses having 3 indomitable rules that they work with. So and I generally have the same. So I will generally not work with people that are rude. I won't work with people that absolutely don't value me, and I won't work with people that don't want to pay me on time. Okay, so those are the 3 rules. So create those rules that are about you as a person, because your own human values and sanity relate to those elements. And it can be you might have a specific thing that's key for you. And then actually, if someone's not matching one of those rules, then just be open and say, hey, thanks very much, but I don't think we're right for each other. I don't think I'm going to deliver the service you need. You probably get more FOMO of people going, oh, well, I want to work with you. Well, thanks very much. As much as you might want to work with me, the way and I've had this conversation with someone before, the way you talk to my member of my team, it just doesn't work for me, I'm afraid. they're as important to me as anything else, and you made them feel like they were small, and that just doesn't work for me. So, having those indomitable rules that you can run your business with is a good direction and policy for people to have as well. And don't be OTT on them, but just have your own values of who you are as a business owner, as a person. You're not there as a doormat.
That's it. And that's, it comes back to why you wanted to run your own business, probably because you don't want to answer to a boss who doesn't defend you in those situations, or, you don't want to work with those pain in the ass clients that your boss is happy to bring into the business. So you've got those options to say no to people, haven't you?
Exactly that, and saying no is a relieving thing. When you tell no, saying to no to somebody, it actually makes you feel better because you're taking control. There's actually a sales technique that we teach in a lot of our academy work around actually when you start to tell people to say no, people feel. So if I get you to say no about something, you feel in control. So a little tip, for example, so it sounds like you'd rather your dog stay as it looks right now. Then no, I don't. Okay, great. Let's get it in the parlour to get it groomed then. So actually, when you give someone the ability to say no, it makes a difference for them. But yeah, it's got to be done in the right way.
Yeah, and my wife Emma, she's very good at asking clients to leave for those sort of reasons. Being rude to staff or objecting about the price. They did actually have a stand-up argument with someone for 30 minutes because he mentioned price, and then we said, "Well, don't book in again." And he said, "I do want to book in again." She's like, "No, you're not booking." They actually ended up having a row about booking in. So, like you said, it creates a bit of FOMO. He missed out.
Well, it is. The other thing, great question to ask when people talk about price. So, the great simple question to ask is that I appreciate you telling me that you don't think it's worth that price. What would you need to see to feel it's worth investing that amount? What would you need to see to feel it's worth investing that amount? Or how far apart on price are we? Or be honest with me, what price were you expecting it to cost? Because one of the challenges, again, this is, again, there's something in the rule now of objections. Price is an objection. They're basically saying, I think I'm okay with your service or thing, but something's in the way. It's like a barrier, it's a hurdle. So most people just talk at it. Oh, the reason we're priced at this is because we're so good and we do this and we do this and we do that. Don't talk over an objection. It doesn't work. Your way to deal with an objection is a simple method that I use as a video on my YouTube channel called LAIR. Listen, acknowledge, identify, respond. Thanks for letting me know, Bill. Seems like you feel like we're a little bit expensive compared to other pet groomers. What would you need to see to feel comfortable investing £50 for a grooming with Rover? And then let that person then tell you what they think. And some people will say, thanks very much. As long as I've got a hold in my mouth, I'll never spend £50 on an agreement for Rover. Okay, thanks very much. Well, look, probably not going to work then. Well, I'd want to see what extra you do, and I'd want to see what other services you add, and I'd want to see how much care you take of the dog and whatever. Okay, great. If I can show you how we take care of Rover, compare, make sure that Rover, when he comes to our facility, is looked after and given the best possible service, how would that make you feel? Would that give you the confidence to feel comfortable investing that bit more? Yeah, probably.
Yeah, so it's important. And it's important then, isn't it, to work on things like getting those reviews onto your Google page, reviews onto your Facebook page, exactly. getting a portfolio of photos of breeds of dogs that you do.
Exactly, and then you've got, and also testimonials of people going, we took Rover Spot, whatever the dog's name is, but we took the dog in, Buster in, and actually they looked after us. Buster can sometimes be challenging in those moments, and therefore they were able to cope with that. Again, I go back to the point of most pet owners, right? The last thing they want is they're putting their, you wouldn't take your child into a nursery and not care about what the nursery was going to do. So most dog owners are the same, right? They want their dog to be in the best possible environment. Now, obviously, it's got to be a value of what they can afford, and there is some elements around what they can afford. But it's their equivalent of a child, right? They're not going to put it into a place that they don't want it to be looked after and well looked after. And if you said to the pet groomer, to the owner, you can pay £10 less and Buster gets treated averagely, or we're going to really look after Buster but for £10 more, most dog owners will go, all right, pay the extra £10. It's just that they don't know, they've not been communicated the value, and also you've not asked enough questions to really know what Buster's owner thinks about Buster being taken into the groomer. And that's where we've got to understand and ask questions and do the sales thing that we should do.
And this is all about communications. And I know from my own clients, when they get on the phones, they are actually able to sell their services at higher prices compared to when they message over. And I had one client who relied on an online booking system, and sales, the inquiries started to drop off. As her prices increased, inquiries started to drop off. And I said to her, let's take the booking system offline, because I reckon people are looking at your prices and then going elsewhere. And so we've done that, and sales is picking up. But she doesn't need as many people because she has higher prices. But it's talking,
Correct.
isn't it?
It is. It's having conversations, right? And it's having, and going back to my other big rule around selling, it's having conversations around what's right for you, but it's also what's right for the other person. Let me put it bluntly to everyone on this. Okay, your customers, your buyers, your prospects, don't give a monkeys about your business. Okay, let's be fair. My customers don't give a monkeys about my business. Your customers don't give a monkeys about your business. None of our customers really give a money. No one buys unless you've got a brand like Louis Vuitton. Most people don't buy something because they want to please the brand. They care for what it can do for them. Okay, and the 101 of selling is actually stop focusing on you and what you want and focus on what the buyer wants. And when you understand the buyer and what's going on in their world and what's happening, what they really value, things become easier. But most people go into sales thinking, oh, I need to go and get 20 people, 20 dogs in. I'm going to go and push my services. I offer, in classic emails I see, we offer a dog services. We offer this. We are amazing. We are great. We are great. Let me be blunt with you. Your clients don't care about you and what you are. Focus on them and their world and how Buster is, or Spot is, or whatever. And then how do you... It's a big one I want people mistake with selling. Selling's not about you. It's about your buyer.
And I've talked about this before with my audience about the problems that they solve and identifying those problems to then help you with the sales, because that's what it is, isn't it? Every business out there solves a problem.
Correct. It was two things. People only buy for two reasons. Okay, they either have a problem, okay, which is 7 out of 10 people. So 7 out of 10 people will buy from a problem, or they have a desire. Okay, so Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich. Great book if everyone hasn't read it. It's you've probably read it, but it was one of the master books that's always. But the point being is desires and is another driver for people. But 3 out of 10, I use the example a lot. If I said to someone you've got toothache, you literally have got really bad toothache. You literally want the problem solved pretty much today or tomorrow, right? If someone says to you, "Oh, we'll sit you in 2 weeks' time," you're like, "No." But if you want your teeth whitened, okay, then you'll be a bit, most people, there are some people that we know that, I know a few people that are quite vain that would want it done tomorrow, but most people would go, yeah, all right, I can wait 2 weeks for my teeth to be whitened, but toothache, no, I need it solved quickly. So the question is, 7 out of 10 people will move from a position of pain rather than a position of pleasure. So the question is, what is the problem? Now, if you're talking to an audience of dog owners, what's the problem? What's the issue that they've got? And the problem generally, I'm guessing this is your world, not mine, is related to the dog might be hot. If there's got too much hair, for example, I'm thinking laterally because I'm not a dog owner, but the dog might be hot, or the dog might be bringing it because the hair's long. The dog might be bringing in more stuff into the house that creates more mess. I don't know. Do you know what I mean? It's about what are those problems, or the dog smells because they've got hair that's old. I don't know. But what are those problems and identifying those problems?
That's it. I was sitting on the sofa yesterday with our sausage dog, and she just stinks. It happens a lot with dog groomers. We don't have time to groom our own dogs, but she just smells. It's just like, oh, she just needs to get a bath. And then was like, well, you can do that if you want. I was like, well, I could take it to a groomer.
Exactly.
There's a problem, isn't it?
It goes back to the problem, and it's like anything else. It's how long you want to put up for the problem. But most people will be in a position where they'll the extent of the problem they can extend, will carry on for a bit. But then eventually it's like, I need to solve this. It becomes, and as you know, we've mentored a person, Alex, that well, and I've mentored Alex for a long time, and we talk a lot about FTE events, right? FTE events that rhymes with duck. This event, so a moment where I talk in a buyer's world where they have an FTE event, which is a duck this event, which is where people go, stuff this, I need to change, I need to do something, I need to purchase that, or I need to make that buying decision. And that's obviously, hopefully that's going to be, a chance for these groomers then to engage with their audience. And once you've engaged with someone and delivered your service, that's when you get creative about, okay, how can I then make sure I keep that person? And that's where systems come in, right? Yeah. It was 4 weeks that Spot, Buster came to us, and we've looked at Buster's a Cavapoo, and the Cavapoo Dog Association recommend that Cavapoos are brushed every 6 weeks in order to keep them healthy in their skin. So we'd like to suggest the following dates for Buster to be brought in on. Okay, there's 12th of September or the 14th. Which one works best for you?
That's it, and that's where systems can help you. Once you've got them into your business, then you can systemize them and allow them to book online, etc., etc. But that initial conversation.
But you can see the way, even I've just said that email there, that's what I call an assumptive close, right? The Busters came into us last time, 4 weeks ago. The Cavapoo Association recommends best health for the dogs, and I'm bullshitting this, right? You guys tell me
You're doing well.
But it recommends that dogs looked after every 6 weeks. 6 weeks from the original date would be this date or this date. Which one is best for you? So I haven't said, do you want to do it? I've just said, which one is best for you? Now, you might get a client replying back saying, I can't make either of those dates. Okay, cool, no worries, how about this or this date, right? But the point being, the decision is then made that they're going to do it. Yeah. That's a simple way in which you can use a system or an assumptive close, which one is best for you. There's an example of how some people started implementing some of those elements, utilising that type of thought process. You hopefully get bookings start to appear in on a regular basis, right?
And that's it. That's one way to grow your business, isn't it? Get your customers to come back more often.
Well, it's the most important thing. I think businesses, like you guys in pet groomers, there's a great, I was once told by a guy that owned a lot of hotels, the most expensive hotel room is an empty one. Okay. So maybe what you guys have got to think about as well, the most expensive appointment that you have is the one that's not booked. So the reality is if you're keeping your funnel fat with people coming through on a regular basis, what that then does is if you're at 80, 90, I don't know, whatever occupancy, and these guys, I'm sure you're doing it with them, Bill, should be measuring occupancy rates and appointment rates, right? If your occupancy rates are at 90, 95, then you're getting full to completion, guess what? That's the beauty of business. That's when we can move our prices up. Because we can then say, I've got more supply than demand, more demand than supply, therefore I've got in a position to move my prices up, or I can take extra people on, or whatever else I want to grow. But we should make you, if you've got 40 slots per week, your most expensive slot is an empty one.
Definitely. So hopefully we've inspired some people with this talk that have been watching, and maybe they're going to get a message today, later on this afternoon, saying, hi, I've been recommended for your service. How much for a cockapoo? And they're thinking, right, I need to get on the phone, but they have so much fear around making that phone call. Is there any sort of help? Do we write a script out? Do we, breathe before we make that phone call? How do we help people?
Definitely breathe. Breathing's good. It helps us. Okay. But the first thing I'd say to people is definitely write out it's just two things. When George Clooney or Angelina Jolie goes on the telly, they come up with their lines and they don't wing it, right? So if you're going to have to make calls, try and write down what you're going to say. And remember what I said: focus on them and the person. And then I'm sure there's some resources that you're sharing. There's again I've got videos on my YouTube channel. Head along to it and have a look. But practice it. First, I take people practice it. Practice what you're going to say. Get comfortable saying the words. Not word for word. You do not want to sound like a robot because that looks terrible. But get comfortable with a framework, okay, of what you're going to say and how you're going to say it. Write it down and practice it with the dog or with a human being or whatever else to make sure you're comfortable. The second thing I always think to people is stop overthinking the other end. Okay, so stop over dramatizing what's going to happen. What are they going to do? You're on the phone. What's the worst that can happen? They might pick up the phone and say, no thanks, we're not we're interested right now, or we're not, whatever. And there are responses to use for that, but stop over dramatizing that. The third thing is this: be human. Stop going into it as a sales conversation. Focus in on being a conversation with two pet people that love pets to understand a bit more about their pet and their situation, and make it a human-to-human conversation, okay? And forget the elements of selling. But obviously in time we do want to sell. And then the fourth aspect that I would say to people is probably critical to this is, again, ask questions. If there's one thing that they should have in front of them is a list of 5 to 10 open questions. And we've been through this with you. Tell me a bit more about your dog. How old is Charlie? When did you get Charlie? Tell me a bit more about Charlie's character. What does he like? What doesn't he like? I mean, I've come up with 4 or 5 there right now. They should have these questions written up in front of them. Where have you, when have you been to a groomer before? How did that work? What didn't work for you? What didn't you like about that groomer? What type of service do you, how do you normally like to, invest in a grooming service for Charlie? When Charlie comes back to you, what do you like him to look like? I'm coming up with 7 or 8 of them now. Have this list of questions. And don't ask questions like you're in the interrogation unit of the police, because that's not a good way to do it, as you know. But the point is, ask questions in a sense of with empathy. Oh, tell me a bit more about Charlie, and how does Charlie like to be a dad? And be really interested in them. And you'll find that owner will tell you everything. They'll share as much information as you want. Mm-hmm. So there's another video on my YouTube channel called Laps, and I use a simple model called Laps, which is listen, ask, probe, summarize. So listen, you should be listening when you're having a sales call for 75% of the time. Ask questions, list the questions that you've got written out that you can find out about the dog. And they shouldn't just be what I would call, basic questions of how old is he and what breed is he. There should be questions like, how does it feel when Charlie comes back and looks amazing? It should be emotional elements of emotion in there. Probing. So probing is literally where you say, oh, right, when, they might say, oh, we took him to a groomer before and it didn't work out. Oh, so don't move on to the next question. Oh, right, what happened there? Tell me a bit more about that. So probe into their world. And then at the end of it, and maybe you've got 10 minutes to kind of summarize. Thanks ever so much for your conversation, Bill. What I've gained from today is you've got Charlie. He's a 4-year-old Cavapoo. You do this, and this, and this is the frustration you've currently had with the current groomer. Have I summarized that correctly? Yeah, you have. Yeah, fantastic. That's exactly where we're at. Okay, cool, fantastic. What would you like to do next? Yeah, and if you ask that question to people, they'll say, oh, well, I'd like to know a bit more about your service. Okay, cool. No problems at all. Really happy to share a bit more about our service. What in particular would be the most areas you'd like to know most about? Well, I'd like to know about how you look after dogs and how you groom them. Okay, great. And just so I understand, what makes that so key for you? Okay, well, it's because we've had a problem in the past. I don't know. So what I'm saying is we want to keep probing so that we can understand the other person. So just focus on doing those 4 things and being human, and you'll have some nice conversation. Then if they come back to you and say, oh, what's the price of it? You should hopefully have your own pricing, and you should have an outline of pricing, or you might do bring them in and we'll give a quote. I don't know how people operate. But what you can say is give that range. And normally when dogs come into us of that size, it ranges from this to this. How does that feel or sound to you? Okay. So if you are in that stage of the conversation where you're given a price, how does that sound to you? And there's a brilliant book that I encourage people to read by a guy called Chris Voss. You'd have read Chris Voss, Never Split the Difference, where he talks about 3 yeses, right? And people will give you some different mistakes back. But the reality is, when you ask that question, how does that sound to you? You'll get a reaction that will either be, yeah, so pretty much in line with what I thought, or feels a bit expensive, or bloody hell, you guys are pricey. So again, this is where and I can't go through the whole sales training that I do, but you know what I mean? That's sort of the way I would approach a call like that. If I was making calls for them, then that's how I would approach it.
Listen, rewind that last sort of couple of minutes. This is how you're going to achieve higher prices in your business, isn't it? If someone's charging £35 for a dog groom, they're not going to have this 10 minutes to spend on the phone speaking to someone. But when your prices are higher, you're creating time to do this, and this will get you better clients at higher prices.
Because you're valuing, and bear in mind, there's a great phrase for people to realise, Bill, right? 27% of people buy premium, okay? 27% of people buy premium. So if premium didn't exist, why does Waitrose exist? Okay, the tin of beans is the same generally, even though they had to do most items in Waitrose are higher price, or Marks and Spencer's food. My wife shops at Marks and Spencer's food all the time. Why? It is good quality, it's better quality, but I'm paying like £7 for a lasagna versus £4, double the price, right? But she goes there because the quality is better and she feels better as a result of it. 27% of people buy premium. So the question is, do you want to be the premium dog groomer in your area, right?
That's it. We need to go and find those.
100%. So, but don't be afraid of that, and don't be afraid of those elements. But again, you can't. If people are just going to judge, there's a great lady that I did a podcast with who runs an ice cream. She runs if anyone knows Granny Gotthards, they're an ice cream that's sold in Waitrose. And Amanda, who runs that, I had a great conversation with her, and she used to go and knock on the doors of lovely country pubs. Okay, and the first thing she'd do is when she talked to the chef about her ice cream, and his is like £7 a tub, so it's like proper nice stuff, right? And it's good stuff. I've only tasted it. I can't afford it that much. I'm joking, but so she'd knock on the door of the pub and she'd say to them, and if the first question the chef said to her was how much it was, she'd say, thanks very much, it's not going to work. And they'd go, what do you mean? Well, if you're only interested in price, then go and buy a Walls tub, because that's what matters to you. But if you actually care about your diners and the experience they get and how great we deliver and how amazing they talk about you on social media afterwards, they've had incredible ice cream and alongside your incredible dessert that you make, then let's have a conversation. So she actually literally used to walk out if the first conversation was about price. And I generally do the same thing. If the first thing people want to know about is price, but I'm probably not for you.
That's it. They want to value the service.
But if you don't value the service, you don't value what I do, then hey, it's okay. It's not a problem. It may, not everyone can afford it, right? I understand that certain people can't afford it. Some people can't afford it. Some people, circumstances are different, but other people's are not. But the point is you don't only get to know that by understanding them and what they matter about and what matters to them. And you get that by asking questions, and you get that by getting to know them and finding out their situation. Now, people might say, oh, I haven't got time to phone people. Okay, well, create an online form, right? Create an online form in your business that you can actually say that encourages them to complete that form. Now, is that a barrier to someone buying? Potentially, but main thing is they're then going to tell you information about the dog and what's going on and circumstances of the dog. For example, I mean, as I said to you, the company I chair today, Andrew, the CEO, daftly, like his dog goes to a doggy daycare. He never takes off his sort of like a coat jacket thing. So whenever I look at photos, I'm like, why is Toby in the jacket? Oh, because he feels more comfortable when the dog's with other environments wearing his coat. How would you know that unless you had a conversation to talk to people about that? But that makes the dog feel better, so Aaron feels better. Easy.
Yeah. And so so you might be worried about phoning a potentially new client about talking to them, but actually they should be doing all the talking, shouldn't they?
100%, 75% of the time. You should have this list of questions that you want to talk and engage with. And it shouldn't be that I've got to beg for the business, talking about beg the dogs. It should be a case of, do I want this business? Is this a good fit customer for me? Are they going to be a BMW customer, or are they going to be someone that's really going to value our service? Now, if it's a new customer, you might need to do something initially to get them on board. Just so for every new customer we work with, just to show you our quality, we do this, and this in addition to our service, just to give you an experience of what it's like for us to work with us. I prefer that than discounting. I don't like discounting personally, because I think if you discount, then you create an expectation of price. But what you might do is to say, for every new customer that we work with, we give a bag of dog food. I don't know, something that they get in addition to it that means that they go, oh, I'll try it.
Yeah, a treat pack, a treat pack, a toy, something like that.
Something you can do as a thank you for choosing to work with us. And what we'll then do is we'll do this, and this to check that our service is at the level you want it to be.
Yeah, definitely. So talk more, talk to your clients more. We can't emphasize it enough, can we?
No, and but not talking, but asking the questions, just engaging with us basically in that way. Yeah.
And when it comes to psychology, I really love that what you said about this presumptive close. So a lot of people have issues where they hand the dog back over. And obviously, we want them to book again in 6 to 8 weeks. It's good for the dog. It's good for the dog's coat. It's good for our business and our money. So what's the best way to sort of encourage, entice, or get people to rebook face-to-face?
Yeah, well, I think I'd say face-to-face. So you look for reactions, right? If you see the dog going, oh my God, Charlie looks amazing. Yeah, if they look at, okay, cheers, Charlie, get in the car, then I'd be like, okay, if they look amazing, great. I mean, it sounds like what we'd ask you is let us know what you think of the service and how would it feel for us to, dogs like Charlie, who are our X, Y, and Z dog, we normally recommend every 4 to 6 weeks. How would it feel to book them in? We're getting really booked up at the moment for September, so shall we get a date booked in now? Okay, that's all you can do. You get a date booked in now. When I go to my hairdresser, I literally book up there and then for the next time, because it's, I know he's busy and therefore I'm going to book it in at that date and time. And then he uses the system to remind me and whatever else. Shall we, or we're getting really booked up with appointments. Shall we get that booked in now?
Shall we?
Simple.
Because a lot of people,
if they say no, then say, oh, no worries at all. I understand totally, but just want to check, is everything okay with the service? Just want to check that what we've done is done. Yeah, it's okay, but we're on holiday then. Okay, no worries. Okay, when else would work for you?
It's that conversation again, isn't it? A lot of people would say, would you like to book again? And that often people just go straight away to no.
Right. If you say, would you like to book again, you're giving a closed answer. How would it feel to book again? How would it feel to get the date confirmed? What would be the best time for you, X or Y? Okay. If you get if you ask a closed question, you get a closed answer. So I always use these Kipling's: who, what, where, why, how, tell me more. How would it feel to get it booked in again? We're really busy at the moment. What does September look like for you? If you want to get things booked in, what would be what would be the best day for you in September to get something booked in? Try and use assumptive language. Yeah.
Assumptive, excellent. And can you recommend any books around learning around that sort of stuff? Do you have
thousands of books?
Do you have your own book?
Not yet. Don't get me going on that. That's a lot of people. Look, I focused on YouTube, so I definitely recommend people, if they love some of the stuff here, go on YouTube, and there's a Facebook group I've got as well. And look, if anyone wants to reach out to me, they can. I'm sure we can connect up, and they can connect through you, Bill, with me. But what I would say to people is really, if you want to use language and phrases that work. Just focus on. It's impossible to explain to people how to close or do certain things at a certain time now. We're not going to do that straight away. But look, get to reach out. We run an academy course that people might be interested in that could be around sales and selling and how to close, and that could be something for them. There's lots of videos there. There's lots of resources on my website. Go to jameswhite.business. There's some closing questions people can ask. There's loads of resources there as well. So.
Yeah, and I'm currently enjoying your email series about hiring your first employee as well.
Yeah, well, exactly. So there's a lot of resources on the site. I also do a Saturday, so if you head to jameswhite.business, I do a Saturday email, which is all about getting inside the mind of your buyer. So I'll talk about some concepts around buyer psychology and fundamentally getting to know people and the way they work. So that's another easy. If they go to www.jameswhite.business, they can sign up for my Saturday email, and that's all around just getting inside the mind of your buyer and how people to. It's all about me helping and supporting them. There's no sales element from my perspective in there, because I'm being blunt. I generally I may not be the right person for a lot of these, for the guys watching, because, I make no bones about the fact I'm expensive, right? The type of clients I traditionally work with are, have a service that's a bit higher price, so they can justify that. But my big mission, as I always say to people, is I'm the sort of Robin Hood of selling. I work with those that are a bit more well off to help those that don't have that. So I'm on a passion to create as many resources, books including one of those things, to help business owners sell. Because if they can sell, make the tills ring, make that phone buzz with payments, that makes me happy.
That's it. And thank you so much for your time today. And I would recommend people go and listen and watch this episode a couple of times, maybe with a piece of paper or a notepad, and just pick out the relevant. There's so much value in this conversation, and so much that can help them with their business. So it's definitely one to listen to a couple of times to pick out what needs doing in their business.
Yeah, look, and if we can help anyone, if anyone's got other questions, maybe I'm also happy to do another, towards, maybe in a month's time, if people have got other questions or other queries, I'm happy to jump on another session if that's helpful for people, to where we can actually specifically do a bit of a surgery and help answer their specific questions. Really happy to do that as well.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for your time, James. And I'll make sure all your links are in the chat, so people can come and find you, sign up to your emails, and watch you on YouTube. And we look forward to seeing your book.
Hey, no worries at all. Look, my best wishes to everyone. Thanks so much for giving up their time. I know they're busy people, but look, I just sincerely want you to be successful and you to achieve the results you want. So good luck in what you're doing. Don't be afraid. And what you put in, you get out. But just don't overthink it is the key thing. Sales is simple. It's about solving problems and understanding people. If you do that, you'll be in good shape.
Excellent. Thanks a lot. Take care. Bye-bye.
Cheers.